Finding My North, a conversation with Barb Hill. Hello and welcome to the Finding My North series. My name is Hayley Harris and I'm the Lived Experience Lead at Finding North. It is my pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker, Barb Hill, who will share her Finding My North journey. Welcome, Barb. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Hayley. I'm so excited and a bit nervous.
Thanks so much. It's awesome. You're going to be great. And so let's just get stuck right into it. Can you share your story with us?
Absolutely. So I will pre-frame that sometimes I may drop a good, well-placed swear word in there, particularly the F-bomb, because it just emphasizes things. However, I want to start with a phrase that was shared with me at my absolute rock bottom moment, and it means so much to me. And it is, to have pain is to have experience is to have knowledge, and to have knowledge is to have power. And that phrase was shared with me by a nurse working in our local mental health unit. And I'm based in Mackay, so it's referenced as J Block. We all have different, we've all heard the terms and the words associated with being in the mental health unit at the hospitals. And for me, though, it was the best thing that happened. And my goal, I guess, is to help people realize that even if they've spent time in the mental health unit, that's can be the best thing for them at that time, and to use it as that platform to bounce up from. Like for me, it was my rock bottom moment. I'd had a lifetime of various traumas. So I was actually born at 26 and a half weeks gestation. So I like to think of that now as, I was born a survivor. I'm here for a reason. So for a long time, I didn't know what that reason was. And throughout life, so my teen years, I'd struggled with bullying and fitting in at school. My home life wasn't the greatest growing up, so experiencing childhood sexual abuse for a number of years. And the thing that broke my heart the most was that no one believed me. And that then paved the way, I guess, for my future relationships with myself and with others, and in particular around men. And through that, men also became like the center of my traumas and my triggers. I experienced a lot of things which, we don't need to go into. I'm not the only one that's experienced these things. There was a lot of things that I went through that no one should go through, all at the hands of men. I ended up being married to we met in high school. We weren't dating in high school. It wasn't until after. But we met and got married. We had two amazing children, 15 months apart. Then he had, because by that stage I'm so trusting. And even to these days, if you tell me the sky's blue, I'm going to believe you, even if it's grey. I believe in the person I'm talking to. So at that time, I made it easy. He would say, I'm finishing work late. And I'd say, okay, I'll see you when you get home. He started having affairs. And so our marriage was disintegrating rapidly. I then found out I was pregnant with our third child. And so we thought, okay, we'll give it another crack. We welcomed our third daughter, Charlie, into the world 7 weeks early. But, our family was complete. And then in 2005, in March the 3rd, 2005, was the day a piece of my heart died. I woke up that morning and I had 3 children, 3 and under, or just shy of 3. And so, when the baby's not crying, you don't go in, especially I had 2 toddlers. So I was like, quick, deal with them, then go in and see Charlie. And unfortunately, I'd found her passed away during the night from SIDS. And you know, that anyone that's experienced the loss of a child, that's especially when there's no warning, a perfectly healthy baby going to sleep and then sleeping eternally. But you know, and others will say to you, like, oh, you're so strong, I don't know how I could cope if I lost a child. Yet when you do, and when I did, I was judged so harshly. So the path I took then was turning to drugs and alcohol to self-medicate, to cope. Um, you know, my marriage was extremely hostile, volatile, whatever word you want to use. I was struggling with two toddlers and grieving my baby. So mentally, I just was falling apart. There was no supports available like there is these days. Even though it isn't that long ago, really. But I was, yeah, partying because my husband, or ex-husband now, he was working in the nightclubs at the time as a bouncer. So it became really easy to just, I was basically getting drugs for free, alcohol for free. And, you know, feel sorry for Barb because she's the one that lost the daughter. And I'd go uptown with $20 and come home with 50 and absolutely rotten, you know. That was how I was coping. And then I guess the universe had other plans. And I then found out I was pregnant again. And I went, oh, shit, you know. And I was honest to my doctor and I'd said, you know, I've been doing this and this and this. And so he worked with me to get clean. He had advised me to wean off, you know, harm reduction, but I just went, no, I've got this new baby inside of me. I'm not doing this anymore. So stop the drinking, stop the smoking, stop the drugs. And then discovered I was actually being blessed with a double rainbow. So I was blessed with twins. And it was incredible. And it really felt like Charlie was coming back and bringing a friend with her. And all went well. It was a troublesome pregnancy. They were born 7 weeks early as well. And all was well until they got to the same age Charlie was when she passed, which was 15 weeks. And then it was like I just expected them to pass away as well. And then my mental health just steamrolled. So you can imagine 5 children, 5 and under at this stage, grieving. Oh, sorry. I still reference the fact I have 5 children. So, and any other bereaved parents will understand that. 4 children, 5 and under, alive, grieving, a marriage that was in turmoil. It was a really toxic, hard time. Um, Fast forward a few more months, or about 18 months, 2 years. I think the twins were about 2.5 when I left. I left. I ended up figuring that I really felt like a failure because I thought to myself, I'm a failure as a mum because my daughter died and I couldn't hold it together with the other kids. I was really struggling. I was a failure as a wife because my husband was having affairs all the time. And that then became my identity. I just thought, I'm a fuck up, I'm a failure, you know. So enter the world back into the drugs and alcohol again. I met someone who was supposed to save me from my demons. Well, he promised he would. And so I literally, like in a movie, ran away in the middle of the night with this other guy. And because at the time, my husband's family lived across the road and the school was at the end of the street almost. So in my head, I was doing the best thing for my kids because at the time I felt like I was failing. I was a screw up of a parent, you know, they'd all be better off without me. So did that. That was about 2008. And oh, actually, before that, I also was involved. My husband and I were in a flash flood. We got swept off the road by a flash flood in the 2008 floods up here in North Queensland. And it was the scariest thing other than losing Charlie. But that was pretty much the end of our marriage not long after that. And So it was a couple of years of really rock bottom moments, low moments, my mental health severely struggling, as you can imagine. Then self-harm became nearly a daily thing. I just wanted to be with my daughter ultimately. So numerous trips then to doctors who'd give me medication and send me on my way. So I would either take too much of it in the hope to not wake up, or I'd just go, oh, they're not working, and just not take them. But wasn't seeing anybody to help with my mental health at the time. I know it sounds like a cop out, but I wish at that time someone had reached out to me and asked, had said, hey, Barb, you really need help. Let's go get you some help. But no one did. And I was just in that spiral and that pit of like nothing. It was just every day was nothing. And that was how I became. Then gradually, though, I started to see the light. And as I say to people these days, when you're in that dark place, we all go, oh, where's that light at the end of the tunnel? But the problem is when you're in that dark place, your eyes adjust to the dark. And so you don't see no light at the end of the tunnel. And when there is that light at the end of the tunnel, you start thinking it's not real. And so fast forward, I was in an extreme DV situation, which I gradually and eventually got out of. Met somebody else who had, again, I thought they were great. A different kind of DV, which I learned there was different types of DV at the time. I didn't realize, which culminated, I guess, whatever that word is, a big word, led me to wanting to take my life. I just had enough. I couldn't cope anymore. I was wanting my kids. I'd missing my kids. Had turned my life around by this stage. I was no longer using drugs as often. Was still using weed to cope with my anxiety and my moods. And yeah, wasn't drinking at all. I was gradually on that path of recovery, beginning those little tiny incremental steps. Then I ended up, after an unsuccessful attempt on my own life, landed in hospital and was transferred then to the mental health unit. At the time, that cemented to me that feeling of failure, because I thought, fuck, I'm a failure as a mum, failure as a wife, and I can't even, I know it's blunt to hear, but at the time I was like, I can't even kill myself. To me, that really cemented that. And apologies if that's triggering for someone, but that is my reality. And so I told them all what they needed to hear so I could get out and ultimately do the job properly. And I was in there for a week and a half, and then they let me out. And I went home, and it's that exact moment. It was quite interesting when I look back. I was literally in the process of wanting to be serious this time in taking my life, and the phone rang, and my partner, who was home at the time, he answered the call, and it happened to be the caseworker from the hospital, and he'd walked in right at that time, and which was really bloody lucky now when I think about it, because straight away ambulances rocked up at my door, back to hospital. And that was like the 9th of January 2015. And what I love about that is they then realized, because I tended to be that, I'm okay, there's people worse off than me, I'm fine, but they realized I was like that. They realized I didn't want to cause a scene. And then I got the help I needed. And it began my journey to now. And it was hard. It was really brutal and hard. Like, I spent another 2 weeks in hospital. I was fighting then because all I kept saying was I wanted to be a mum to my kids, but I felt like I was such a failure I couldn't be. Then at this stage, I also became homeless because I had to leave the relationship I was in, and I had nowhere to go. So I was set up with a organisation locally here called CASA, which is a crisis accommodation support agency. And they helped me source a place, and I began support with them. They had a homestay program, and I had a weekly support worker at that stage. And I was also enlisted in with another organisation for mental health support. So I was getting mental health support at the mental health building, I'll say, because I realise this isn't in Mackay. I was seeing a counsellor there every week, and the psychologists and psychiatrists, heavily medicated. I was in a mental health plan with that. And then I was in the 2 support services to get me out, because back then, after my breakdown and that, which had landed me in the hospital, I actually couldn't speak. I'd developed a severe stutter. And so subsequently, I didn't speak a lot, which I now make up for. But talking was my, so I also in this time had began getting to see my children every second weekend. And then one of my support workers through the homestay program had then said, she recognised that all I wanted was to be a mum. So she was heavily advocating for me to see my children more, as was then I got linked with other services that helped me through the court process, which took a long time, a couple of years. And but through that time, like, my children even nicknamed me the rapper because of my stutter. And it was, I still stutter occasionally, but not as often anymore. But I realized I was also then up to, I guess I just got another, you have to excuse me, my brain tends to be very too many tabs open, so I see shiny thing. But these days I'm a strong advocate for men's mental health, hence my shirt, my real mates talk. It's all opposite on the screen. My real mates talk, but that's coming up to that. But through the court process, I was really struggling because I then understood how men, primarily men, feel when they're going through custody fights and family court with the false allegations of, and I know this is a triggering topic for some, because there's definitely it's lived experience of DV myself, certainly not discounting that, but there are also men that are wrongly accused and then denied their children, and they're going through court process unnecessarily and unfairly. And I really could relate to them, because when we were having the family courts, I was the only female in a room full of all men, waiting our turn basically for our hearing. And what upset me the most during that time was my husband, or ex-husband, who had by this stage remarried and had heaps more kids. He'd actually been to jail, and yet in the eyes of the law, like, I won't divulge what he went to jail for, the charge, but he had been charged with something which, in the eyes of the law, I was deemed a more unfit parent because I had attempted suicide. And yet the charge that he was facing, he can no longer work with children. And yet in the eyes of the law, someone, because of my mental health, I was deemed the unfit parent. Yet my advocates, my supports, they all knew that once I could be a mum again, my mental health would improve, So it was a long, drawn out battle. But that was when, interestingly, I guess the switch was flipped for me, and I started realizing that men need more support and help too. And through this time, then my mental health started to improve. And then I began a lived experience program through Wellways. Actually, they were doing a Well Together presentation where they were after lived experience, people with lived experience of mental health struggles, to speak about it. So I began sharing my story, and I even got to present to the justice system locally here with solicitors, a judge, family law practitioners. And they then realized, they were guilty themselves of judging, absolutely going by the book, written on paper. Oh, absolutely, deemed unfit parent. But the reality was so different to what was written on paper. And I just, through that, then I could be here all day, but we don't have all day. But it was then began those little, we're talking those incremental changes again, and little projects started cropping up. And, it's all who you know sometimes. Like someone's, I got a phone call, Barb, we're starting this project. We really would love you involved. And so I was just wanting to make a difference then and help people that were struggling. And, so I'd start in one thing and then I'd start in something else. And through that, through one of our programs with the our local SPCAP, which is a suicide prevention community action planning group, we were put into work groups, and our work group was so I'd actually started the month after the initial project had started, but the work group I was put into was to create a project for men. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. And that's how Real Mates Talk was born. And it's ultimately just to help break stigma down, create those real conversations and connect. It's now not just men, it's for men and women. However, when it started, it was actually started by a group of women and one man. Because we all recognized our brothers, our husbands, our fathers, our sons need the support. It was established in 2020. And it's really cool because through that, we now had developed a network, and we connect. So if people reach out to Real Mates Talk needing assistance, we connect them to services. Because as we all know, the maze of the mental health system, and there's services out there, but it's how do you know which one you need and how to find them, especially if you're in that dark place. It's overwhelming. So we're there to help with that process ultimately. So it's not a program as such, but it's a project, and just creating the conversation. So there was that happening. And then I was getting really tired of being in the mental health system. I felt like I was being kept stuck. And I thought there's got to be another life, because I was on numerous medications. I could still hardly function, was struggling to, like during my journey, I was that bad. I couldn't even do groceries. I had a support worker who I'm still in touch with these days, and she'd said to me, can you remember the time we'd go shopping and you'd bail in the fruit and veggie section because it was too overwhelming? And now it's such a far cry, because like fast forward to now, life is just so freaking different. I overcame my stutter. I developed NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It all started from going to the library with a support worker because I was, struggling with being out in public. But so she took me to the library to begin my integration back into society. And I picked up a Tony Robbins book, and called Awaken the Giant Within. And from there began, I guess, my journey for more, because I knew there was more. And if that's my big thing for people. If you are in the mental health system and struggling with your mental health, that's not who you are. You don't have to be defined by your labels, because I got that many blooming labels. but labels belong on freezer bags, they're not on you. You're not your diagnosis. And then you just work with it. Like, I mean, I got the old ADHD brain, but it can be fun. We can achieve great things and numerous things all at the same time. uh, but that's a whole different topic. But I guess with that, like, it's working at that overcoming. They say the only way to get through, to get over something is to go through it, and it really is true. So now, like, from going from someone who couldn't leave my house to not being able to talk, not even be able to do groceries, to now I'm front and center at country music festivals, including our CMC, which I'm going to this year, by the way. Again, I'm so excited. That's my second one. I'm also backstage marshalling at our local talent ones, which, are through Outback Queensland. And last year I was the MC for the 3-day event at Charters Towers for their big country music festival. And I'm already booked to do other MCing gigs later this year as well. So, or in a couple of months. But it's just, I know I totally went on a tangent, but it's that whole, like, you don't stay, you can change, get those, if you have a dream, you can go for it ultimately. Yeah. So much more I can say, but yeah.
I love when you talk about where you were and comparing it or contrasting it to where you are now. Like, especially when you say there was a point where you could barely speak or you couldn't go to the grocery store, and now you're emceeing events, you're being part of projects, you're sharing your story publicly in all these different arenas. What a huge turnaround. And I think, like, not only is that inspiring for you to be an inspiration to yourself, but it can show other people what's possible.
Absolutely. And the biggest, like, now I recently, only a few months ago, began a new work role. So through this time in the last 3 or 4 years, I began doing disability support work. It all started with Wellways because I literally then went to the boss and went, hey, I'm doing this program and I really would like work. I'd like a chance. And it was ironic because when I first said to him, I really would only like to work with women and women or children. And pretty much all my clients straight away were men. And I thought, fuck. But it was all perfect. It was perfect because I'm now the token auntie for so many things I'm part of. And locally we have a bit of a joke, someone will be like, oh, we need a dose of Auntie Barb, because I am not necessarily soft all the time. I can be, because of my journey and what it took to get to where I am now, I can be like more that throw the stick in the creek and get the dog to jump after it kind of approach. It's like, let's go, I've got you and I'm going to help you. Because through then that process, when I discovered NLP, not only did I discover it, I trained in it and I got to my master level practitioner. Some people absolutely run with it. I used it more for myself, but then also became a coach and use it as a tool. I've since gone on to study epigenetics, hypnosis, just so many different tools and energy work. And, so I play in a lot of different realms, I guess you could say. But one of the key elements that also was fundamental and I really need to put in is volunteering. Because at the time I was still dealing with these feelings of failure and the not good enough piece. And so I began volunteering for different programs that I were around what I knew, which was to do with mental health or suicide awareness and prevention. And even to this day, I'm still heavily involved in a huge volunteering capacity. And we've got a number of different projects that run throughout the year, especially around mental health and suicide towards around September, October. And it's so fulfilling and you take so much from that. And then that then leads to work. And now, like, come end of September last year, I was approached a couple of years ago to work for this organization, which is amazing, based here in Queensland, called Drug Arm. And I went, I'm not good enough to do that. And so I left it. And then in September, I was approached again. And I went, I'm not good enough to do that. Still, like, this is only last year. And my colleague, who is also a fellow volunteer with a number of the programs I'm part of, including Real Mates Talk, he said to me, now, Auntie Barb, what would you be saying to a client? What do you say to other people? And I was like, oh, shit, yeah. So I went for it. And now, honestly, I have landed where I'm meant to be. It is amazing. And what helps so much is that lived experience, is that peer work capabilities, because there's nothing that you can't learn this stuff. You can, of course, go to uni and all that and do all the courses you want. But if you've walked through that mud, if you've been through certain situations, struggled with your mental health, or, you know, whatever it is, gone through different experiences, that is the best experience. And then when you're then working with people, you can help them in that lens, and it connects you so much better. Like, my role with Drug Arm is as a family support facilitator. So I work with family members of those who are supporting someone with a substance use challenge. And it is so rewarding. I love it immensely. And I get to do all my stuff under one banner. And I'm also now volunteering through my work, using it as a vehicle, well, literally using the work vehicle, but as an outreach service for homeless people every Thursday morning. Me and my fellow colleague with Real Mates Talk, we go down and cook a Barbie breakfast for some homeless people, and provide cold drinks, snacks, and other personal products. And it's so rewarding, and it's so humbling, and it's just being that light for them ultimately. It's, yeah.
It sounds like you're being the person now that you needed back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Your Auntie Barb, you needed
Yeah.
Auntie Barb to come
Yes.
in and say, hey, I'm a bit worried about you. Let's go this direction instead. And it sounds like you didn't have that person at the time, but you
No.
are that person for others now, and
Yeah.
sometimes for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I need to also add in there, I have my kids now too, although they've grown up. They're all
I was
doing
going
their
to
own
ask.
thing now. I was like, shit, I hadn't got that part yet. But yeah, no, I did end up getting my children 50-50 in the end through quite a long, drawn out process. Which only added fuel to the fire for me to really advocate more for the men in the mental health space, especially those who are experiencing parental alienation. Personally, I could go on a whole tangent with that, but I feel there needs to be laws changed in that space, because too many beautiful men are losing their life because of it. He was my unofficial big brother, but I was known as his little sister. His name was Christian, and I had known him for a number of years, and he was that one man through my dark time. He was with me before my breakdown. He was with me through as a friend. He was there without crossing any boundaries, nothing like that. It was always like I was his little sister. And then in towards the final years, the roles changed, and I ended up having to be his support through his dark times, because parental alienation destroyed him, took everything from him, and ultimately took his life. And he's my why. Him and my daughter Charlie, and Christian's nickname was Charlie Brown, and because his surname was Brown, and so my two Charlies are with me every damn day, everything I do. And like, I've even got can't really see it, but my Live Life Large, that's in honor of Christian, and that's with me every day. And I even live and breathe the Real Mates Talk, because I even had that tattooed as well.
I think that your efforts in volunteering are so amazing. And just everything, not just the volunteering, but everything you're doing now, that concept of pay it forward, you're just living it, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
And it is. I hadn't thought of it like that. That whole pay it forward. And that's my driver for it. Yeah, because it's to help anyone that's struggling. Because when you're struggling, you don't think you're good enough or can do it, and you underestimate what you're capable of. And only the other day I saw a saying. People overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 5, or something along those lines. And I went, wow, that's so true. Like, yeah, it's even only the other day I got approached to MC another or an original music event. It's with original artists and that, and I thought, oh, cool, that's really awesome. And then yeah, it's just, I pinch myself all the time because it's just, is this really happening? And, as I mentioned, I got swept off the road by a flash flood. I have a phobia level fear of drowning, which I've done work on, yet it's still there a little bit. But my beautiful partner that's in my world now, he has, what's the word I'm looking for? Introduced me to the world of jet skiing. And we live in the Whitsundays. He's actually based up near Early Beach. And so we get on the jet skis and go to Whitehaven Beach just because we can. I am quite often scared absolutely shitless. And on one trip back, it was quite hairy. But it's that constant doing it. And then you can overcome those fears. And yeah, it's just a matter of doing it. Those little 1% things. I know in time I'm going to be fearless on the jet ski. Right now is not that time, but I'm getting closer.
I want to ask you a question. So, and you can kind of say this however you want, but something at Finding North, we like to ask people, what's your north? And so for some people, their north can refer to their guiding light, their passion. Some people, their north is that recovery thing. And so, yeah, we might hear people say, oh, my north is my kids, my north is volunteering, my north is the beautiful nature. It's the thing that drives them. So can I ask you, Barb, what's your north?
I'd have to say, because I struggled with that not good enough piece and that feelings of failure piece, especially, and I still struggle. Like I said, my children are now growing up, but I struggle with that not good enough as a mum piece, because through my recovery time, then when I began working, I threw myself into working. I'm a kind of an all or nothing person. And because I didn't want to fail at anything and let my boss down, if they said, Barb, can you do this shift? I'd say yes. Can you do this shift? Yes. Then I'd be volunteering. Yes. Meanwhile, my kids are at home and I'm trying to then be the good enough for everybody. And so what happened then is that whole burnout type of effect. But my north, I guess, is that showing my kids that they can be proud of me. It's like, yeah, I would love my kids one day to, because my relationship with my oldest isn't the closest. I would love her dearly, but in her eyes, because she doesn't see me as I am now all the time, I think she doesn't believe it's true. So like, I no longer use substances, no longer self-harm. Life is amazing. I never want to tap out ever again. Don't even smoke. Socially drink. I love a good beer at a country music festival, but it's, far cry from where I was. Yet I still feel like no matter what I do, it's still not good enough. So I guess my north is that driving, like, to be. She struggles ultimately now with anxiety and mental health. And yes, I blame myself. However, there's life, and she's old enough now to take some responsibility. That's a huge piece. You have to take your own self-responsibility. You can blame, name, shame, anything you want for the reason you're in the situation you're in or struggling with a mental health condition because of trauma. But there has to come a time where you take that self-responsibility as well and go, enough is enough. Do I want to live the rest of my life like this, or do I want to change? And that was a big driver for me as well, I guess, is that change and improvement. Like I would, you know, 2015, if you'd ask what my north is, what my guiding thing is, it would be to actually live a happy life, where now I just want to inspire people and help people. Yeah. And ultimately be good enough or feel good enough.
I believe you are definitely inspiring people, and you are most definitely good enough, Barb.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that over time you will keep feeling it and learning it and really believe it.
Yes, thank you. It's even recently so locally we've got a women's awards, and I recently they're in March, so I don't know what time, when at the time of recording this we're in February. But I was nominated in the health and wellness warrior section, and I was incredibly grateful and blown away because for me, I've actually been part of the organization for a couple of years who run the awards, but I'm always there supporting everybody else, and that's the theme of me as Arnie Barb as well. Even in my coaching space with my network, I'm always there supporting everybody else. I'll be like, you go, you take the center stage. I'll do whatever you need me to do to help you. But now all of a sudden that's shifting, and I'm having to step on stages, which is daunting but exciting. And then to be nominated, I already feel like I'm a winner. Like, it's just to be literally, the names on the list are some incredibly inspiring women and powerful women in our community. And then there's my name on the list as well. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm there. But it's, a coach had said to me once before, who's at your table? Who's sitting at your table? If you're the richest, the prettiest, smartest person at your table, you need to shift tables because you won't keep growing. And that really landed with me, and it was really, I guess, ironic because and they say, you are the sum total of the 5 people you associate with. So if you're hanging out with people that you really don't want to be like, you need to look at that and change that, friendship groups, etc. But I look around now, the people I associate with, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really cool and inspiring. And now for that event, I'm literally sitting at the table with a few of the nominees in the same section because they're friends and we know each other. And I'm like, wow, literally, like I could take that phrase literally, like I'm sitting at the table with these incredibly inspiring people. And actually the whole room is full of incredibly inspiring people for that event. But they're in my circle every day now, which is really amazing.
Incredible. And you are the people at your table are awesome people that you can look up to, but you are at that table, and for you are that person to other people as well, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah,
And you
I
should
didn't think
be
of it
really
like that.
it's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
So as you can
awesome.
see, I still struggle with the whole what's the word I'm looking for? Taking what's the word I'm looking for? Compliments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people will go their whole lives and still
Yeah.
struggle with taking compliments, but
Yeah.
I think it's a work in progress for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What an awesome conversation it is to have with you, Barb, and to hear the journey that you've been on and where you are now is incredibly inspirational. And yes, you should be very proud of yourself, and I think the people in your life should be very proud of you as well.
I'm sure they are.
I am too.
Yeah, and there's so much more to the story, but we're limited for time.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts that you'd love to say? Anything that you feel that you haven't quite covered yet? Any words of wisdom, whatever it
I
may be.
I guess you support people. So if people are watching this and using support services, lean on them. They're there to utilize and to help you. If you've got a support, like I had support workers. So if you've got a support worker that is, you feel like, we all have our goals and stuff, especially if you're in the NDIS system still. But because NDIS was just coming in when I was using support services. So I was actually, that was my out. That was my, I went, you know what? No, I want to get better. I really, and that was the moment that I took that leap of faith, so to speak, and ultimately discharged myself from the mental health service, and I went engaging with coaching more so. And that was where the shift really occurred for me in my recovery journey. And I work alongside our mental health teams here daily now. So it's not dissing them at all, but I needed that to grow and to move forward. And so, you as a person, whoever's watching this, if you are using support services at the moment and you've got them dreams to grow, and you can, no matter what your diagnosis or label or whatever, we can focus on your strengths. There's great things you can do no matter what your condition or disability or struggles with your mind. We can, there's people out there who can help you find your dream and passion. But use your support services. If there's someone that you're working with that you're not getting that from, you can change. You can change your workers. Get a worker that can help you grow. Have them implement to connect you with other services that might help you on your journey, but work with them. Don't treat them like slaves. They're there to help you. And you do need to take the self-responsibility, but they're there to connect you with other organizations. So even in my role these days as a family support facilitator, like, I'm dealing with all kinds of topics which families are dealing with. It's then my role to connect them to services which can help in that space. And that's what your supports are there for. So I strongly urge you, if you're using supports, to use them as they're intended. And yeah, you can get that help, and set yourself them goals, but make them, they're measurable. Don't, you can have the big grand goal for 10 years time. Imagine yourself where you are in 10 years if nothing changes, and then imagine yourself if it changes to how you wish it could be, where you'll be in 10 years. And make smaller goals to achieve in the process. Like for me, at that time, my original goal was to get my kids, to be a mum. And then I got that goal, and then it gradually shifted with different goals. And now my goal is to live happily ever after in a relationship that's safe and loving. I hope I'm there now. I may not be. I don't know. It's certainly safe. It's certainly loving. Is it forever? I'm not sure. But it's because I'd love to say yes. But after all the traumas I've been through, I also am not sure, because we're only new. So we're 12 months in. So it's still, early days. But in saying that, though, if if the opportunity was there to make it forever, I would certainly be jumping on it happily. But yeah, set those goals, set them dreams, no matter what it is. Nothing's too silly. I even go skydiving just because I can. It's them facing those fears. And besides, when you're skydiving, you're strapped to some hunky guy, and you you got to throw your trust into it. And it's the experience. And then just on that, on Charlie's 18th birthday, no, sorry, it wasn't her 18th. I've been a couple of times. It was her 16th birthday. The event nearly didn't happen because of the weather. And then the final moment, the weather cleared and the skydiving company, because I was quite distressed because I really wanted to do it. It was my first time jumping, really wanted to do it for her birthday, because in my head, I felt like for that moment, I was closer to heaven. I was closer to Charlie. So that's what I wanted to experience. So they took us up, we did it, and I jumped, and I free fell through a double rainbow.
Oh my gosh.
If I didn't take that opportunity to do something so bloody scary, I could never say that I did that. And I did that. And it, will be a memory with me forever. And then even when I last went on Charlie's 18th birthday, I don't know how spiritual some people are, and I know some people aren't. I am. But it was this really unreal moment that when I went to jump at that moment, I felt Christian. It was as if he grabbed my hand and was like, right, sis, let's go. And it was like I felt him with me the whole way, and it was just incredible. So set them challenges. Life is for living. Don't, I got tired of just existing. And that was what ultimately led me to my suicide attempts. But then I also got tired of existing, and that's what made me change and want to freaking live. So currently we've been experiencing cyclones off our coast, so I haven't been jet skiing. It's my birthday Sunday. I am crossing everything that the weather is fine so I can get out on that jet ski and go out to Whitehaven for my birthday, just because I can, Yeah.
Good on you. I hope the weather's good. Happy birthday for Sunday.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. You've it's certainly a time to celebrate because you've been through a lot. And I love your zest for life now. That idea of not wanting to just kind of struggle through, but you want to thrive. You want to make the most of this life, not just for you, but for Christian and for Charlie.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. I still have bad days. I still have moments where I'm like, fuck it all, like I'm just, why do I do what I do? And I just want to eat a packet of Tim Tams. But that's my crutch now, where before I used to self-harm. Now I go to the local shop and I'll buy a packet of Tim Tams. You got to cope somehow. And yeah. But I mean, if I can be of, I don't know, like if anyone needs a chat, needs support, wants to, I'm more than happy to connect with anybody that would like, I don't know, just to chat and some guidance, because that's what I'm here for. And that's why I was really honored to be doing this, because if it can be that light for somebody, ultimately that's what we're part of Finding North for, isn't it, really? So, yeah.
Thanks so much, Barb. Thanks for your time today. You've been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. To join more conversations like this one or to share your own journey, please contact info@findingnorthnetwork.com.au.